Hey guys, welcome to Ripple and R3 Partnership Exposed Part 3. I'm really sorry for the delay in posting this video. I appreciate your patience and I really appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe before we get into it. If you don't mind, it really helps the channel. And leave me a comment at the end or even right now if you want. Just say yo, say anything. Alright guys, let's get into it. So just a very quick short overview of what I discussed in Part 1, Part 2. I showed that the shared ledger, the unified ledger, regulated liability network, regulated settlement network, regulated internet of value, and the finternet, it's all the same thing. It's an XRP ledger. And quant overledger is an overlay that allows all of the different legacy systems that exist today to connect into the unified ledger, which is the XRP ledger, and multiple other blockchains at the same time and build what are called multi-chain applications. Quant said they partnered with R3 because it's R3 that's bringing over the shared ledger, which all of the tokenized assets will reside. And I showed how R3 has a major partnership with XRP, with Ripple, and this is the shared ledger. The shared ledger that they're bringing over is obviously the XRP ledger. Like I showed, again, I proved clearly 100 different angles that the shared ledger, unified ledger, regulated liability network, finternet, our regulated settlement network, it's all the XRP ledger, okay? And the central bankers are using different names every time to confuse the communities, to confuse everyone. And I finally showed irrefutable proof that it's all the XRP ledger. And 90% of the XRP community is still confused about that. A lot of people know that, okay, the unified ledger, the XRP community generally knows like, oh, okay, the unified ledger is likely the XRP ledger, and the finternet is the XRP ledger, and or the regulated liability network is probably connected to the XRP ledger. But I clearly showed, and I believe for the first time ever, that it's actually all the same thing. Okay, it's all the same thing, and they're using different names to confuse us every time. That's what I showed before, and now we're gonna go and we're gonna continue and show more about the R3 Ripple partnership, how tight the partnership is. And so now I'm just gonna start by showing you just how massive R3 is. Okay, so who is R3? So here we asked Grok3, which is my favorite AI. Grok3, you asked him about R3, who owns R3? So he says R3's 107 million funding round in 2017 included investments from over 40 institutions, primarily major banks and financial firms, with an additional 5 million from CLS in 2018. While the exact ownership stakes are not publicly disclosed due to R3's private status, the full list of known investors from 2017 round, as reported by credible sources, include. These are the companies that invested in the first round. Okay, keep that in mind. This is just the first round of funding. So who owns R3 that we know of for sure? Bank of America, HSBC, Intel, SBI Group, SBI Holding Japan. From what we understand, SBI Group was a major entity responsible for negotiating a settlement between R3 and Ripple when they had their lawsuit. Okay, so SBI Holding, they own about 90% of the banks in Japan. 80 or 90% of the banks of Japan is owned by SBI Holding. So just there, that is 80 to 90% of the banks in Japan. Then you've got Temasek. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, but Temasek, massive company, I believe for global trade. Then you've got BNY Mellon, which is one of the biggest banks in the world. It's the biggest custodian bank in the world. I believe they have 25 trillion under management or something like that. Ridiculous number. You've got Barclays, BBVA, CIBC, Commerzbank, Credit Suisse, which is another massive bank, Danske Bank, Deutsche Bank, ING, Mitsubishi Financial Group, Morgan Stanley, Nordea Bank, Societe Generale Bank, Standard Chartered, State Street, UBS, US Bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of Montreal, Bank of New York Mellon, Citibank, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, DNB, Unibanco, National Australia Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, Royal Bank of Scotland, SEB, TD Bank Group, Westpac, and Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation. Wow. What a tongue twister. So this is just the banks, which is pretty much a lot of the biggest banks in the world, pretty much all the majority of them. That's the first round of investing in R3. So this is the first round. This is just what Grok3 is telling me on the first round. And then you've got CLS, a huge fintech company specializing in foreign exchange settlement. Isn't that interesting? They invested $5 million in 2008. These institutions, primarily global banks, invested to support R3's Corda platform, which focuses on blockchain solutions for financial services like trade finance, payments, and digital assets. Note that an unverified exclaim suggests SBI Holdings holds 51%. I don't think it's 51%, but it might be. But we were told that SBI Holding is the biggest private holder of R3. Okay, so on and so forth. Now we're going to look at all of the global CBDC projects or major DLT projects that R3 is involved in. Oh my goodness, you're going to like this. All right, so global CBDC projects involving R3 and Corda. So the first project. So let's see here. R3's Corda platform is a leading permissioned DLT designed for financial services, emphasizing privacy, security, and interoperability. Okay, it has been selected for several high-profile CBDC projects, particularly for wholesale CBDCs due to its ability to handle complex financial transactions in regulated environments. Below are the known CBDC projects where R3 or Corda is explicitly involved. So you've got the United Arab Emirates, the digital dirham. So that's a central bank digital currency for the United Emirates. So the central banks of UAE selected R3 alongside G42 Cloud and Clifford Chance to implement its CBDC strategy for the digital dirham. Corda serves as the underlying DLT platform supporting secure and private transactions for wholesale and potentially retail use cases. I'm just going to go through them quickly because there's so many of them it'll take forever. Kazakhstan, Digital Tenj. So again, this is the CBDC for Kazakhstan. Details in 2021, R3 Corda was chosen as DLT platform for the National Bank of Kazakhstan. Digital Tenj pilot project. Then you've got Sweden, the e-krona. Then you've got the Bank for International Settlements, Project Jura. Okay, so this is the central banks for all of the central banks, Project Jura. Then you've got the United Kingdom, Project Rosalind, which Quant was involved in. What did Quant say in regards to the regulated liability network, which is technically the XRP ledger? I proved that in my other videos. I might play this at the end of the video as well. But they said in regards to regulated liability network, he said we also partnered with R3, who's bringing in the shared ledger where all of the tokenized assets will reside. That's what Gilbert Verdian said of Quant. He said partner with R3 because they're bringing in the shared ledger, which is the XRP ledger. So now we see them involved with Project Rosalind. Again, Quant, who was the infrastructure layer for Project Rosalind? It was Quant, because Quant is the interoperability and programmability layer and custom API solutions for technically likely all of the BIS projects. So all of the BIS projects, which the Innovation Hub is involved in, that's the Innovation Hub for the Bank for International Settlements, so that's the BIS Innovation Hubs. They have numerous projects, all involving different CBDCs projects all over the world, and Quant is the interoperability solution for all those projects, because Quant is the only solution that exists to bring all of the legacy systems that exist today to connect the blockchain. So you got that one. Then you've got in Canada, Project Jasper. Project Jasper is a collaborative research initiative by the Bank of Canada, Payments Canada, and R3, among others, to explore DLT for wholesale payment system. This has been ongoing for years. Then you've got Switzerland, Swiss National Bank Wholesale CBDC. So that's a CBDC for Switzerland. And the 6th Digital Exchange SDX, which hosts the Swiss National Bank's wholesale CBDC, uses R3 Corda. So imagine, the 6th Digital Exchange SDX is absolutely massive beyond comprehension, and it uses R3 Corda as the underlying DLT platform. Then you've got France. So this is the wholesale CBDC for France. So now we're going to look at other major DLT projects involving R3. These are just the projects that Grok 3D AI is telling me about. So all of the ones that are not disclosed and are not public, Grok 3 would not know about them. These are just the ones that are public. Major DLT projects involving R3 or Corda. I say Corda because R3 are the ones that have the R3 Corda app, which uses the R3 Corda settler that uses XRP for settlement, for liquidity and settlement when you're going cross-asset, when you're going cross-border. So major DLT projects involving R3. 6th Digital Exchange, like we talked about. Euroclear's DFMI, Financial Markets Infrastructure Tokenization Platform. Euroclear, a major financial market infrastructure provider, uses Corda for its digital financial markets infrastructure platform to tokenize assets and streamline collateral mobility. HQLA, a collateral mobility platform, leverages Corda to facilitate secure and efficient collateral transfers between financial institutions. It is backed by major banks like Goldman Sachs, HSBC, and JP Morgan. Isn't that interesting? The platform optimizes liquidity management and reduces counterparty risk through instant settlements and smart contracts. So the platform here, the R3 Corda platform, optimizes liquidity management. Like I said, XRP is on-demand liquidity. That's the main product Ripple has with XRP. It's on-demand liquidity, and it reduces counterparty risk because it's instant settlement. So this right here describes you exactly what XRP does. So now you've got Japan's Progmat security token platform, founded by Mitsubishi. Then you've got Spunta, which is a massive consortium of massive projects in Italy. Then you've got Marco Polo Network. The Marco Polo Network, a trade finance platform, initially used Corda to facilitate faster reconciliation and reduce paperwork. However, it faced scalability challenges, leading some participants like Monago to go to cloud-based solutions. So that was a major project. Then you've got NASDAQ partnerships. R3's partnered with NASDAQ. Then you've got the Royal Canadian Mint. The Royal Canadian Mint implemented a DLT solution with Exegra, powered by Corda. Then you've got Title Genius. Now we're going to look at every major advisory group or organizations that R3 is involved in. So R3 is actively engaged in several advisory groups, consortiums, and organizations to advance DLT adoption and shape regulatory frameworks. Below are major ones. So you've got the R3 Consortium. So imagine this, founded in 2014, this is 11 years ago. R3 started as a consortium of 9 banks, including Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley, and grew to over 400 institutions, including banks, financial market infrastructures, regulators, and technology companies. The R3 Consortium involves 400 institutions. R3 leads the consortium, driving collaborative innovations. Then you've got the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub. R3 collaborates with the BIS, like I told you, Project Jura, Project Rosalind. Then you've got Singapore FinTech Association. R3 partnered with the Singapore FinTech Association to provide startups and the network access to Corda, fostering innovation in financial services. Then you've got the TOIP Foundation, that's the Linux Foundation, which is pretty much the biggest consortium in the world. So the Hyperledger Foundation, or used to be under the Linux Foundation, they were the ones who released the Internet of Value document that I showed you, where it laid out the Internet of Value, and it showed how XRP and the XRP ledger was the new Internet of Value. This was coming from the Linux Foundation. It was coming from Hyperledger, which is a sub-branch of the Linux Foundation. Now Hyperledger is now called the Decentralized Trust. So it's just the LF, Decentralized Trust. Okay, but again, that document that came, that PDF that showed exactly how they were going to create the Internet of Value using Interledger Protocol and XRP Ledger, and R3 was the other major component in there. This came from the Linux Foundation indirectly. And now you've got the Policy and Government Relations for Digital Currencies. R3's head of Policy and Government Relations for Digital Currencies and CBDC, Jack Fletcher, engages with regulators and policymakers globally to advocate for DLT and CBDC adoption. Now we're going to look at everything that Ripple is involved in. So we just looked at everything that R3 was involved in. Now we're going to look at everything Ripple is involved in. And then you tell me if they're working together, okay? And you can also tell me if you think that shared ledger, which I clearly prove that the shared ledger, like I said, shared ledger, unified ledger, regulated liability network, Finternet, it's all the same thing, because the regulated liability network used to be called the regulated Internet of Value, and that's Ripple. All right, so now let's look at every CBDC project that Ripple is involved in globally, the public ones, right? We know that they're involved in pretty much all of them, maybe aside from a few that the Stellar Network is going to handle, which is XLM. All right, so CBDC projects globally where Ripple is involved. Ripple has positioned itself as a key player in CBDC development, leveraging its blockchain technology, particularly the XRP ledger and its private ledger for CBDCs. So the XRP ledger has a private ledger for CBDCs to support central banks and governments. The Ripple CBDC platform, announced in May 2023, is designed to help central banks issue and manage CBDCs with features like instant settlement, low transaction costs, and secure wallet management. I'll show you actually a clip of that in a few minutes. CBDC projects. You've got the Republic of Palau, stablecoin PSC, because the Republic of Palau doesn't have a central bank, my understanding, so that's why they're doing it in the form of a stablecoin. Then you've got the National Bank of Georgia, the digital Lari, I think is how you would say that, pilot. You've got the Banco de República, Colombia, so the CBDC pilot for Colombia. Then you've got the Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, which R3 is specifically mentioned in the IMF document, where the IMF calls the blockchain solution for this project, they call it the Ripple R3 blockchain. Isn't that interesting? The Ripple R3 blockchain. Then you've got the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. That's the CBDC for them. It's the EHKD pilot. Digital Hong Kong dollar. Then you've got additional unannounced CBDC project. Ripple has reported being in active discussion with over 20 central banks. Actually, the other day, one of the guys at Ripple said 30 central banks. And years ago, Brad Garlinghouse admitted that, and this was in 2019 or 2020, Brad Garlinghouse admitted 5 or 6 years ago that they were in talks with over 50 central banks. Isn't that interesting? Banks globally, CBDC projects with several unannounced pilots. James Wallace, Ripple's VP of Central Bank Engagement and CBDC, stated in 2023 that Ripple is working with 5 announced countries and a similar number of unannounced ones with 20 plus additional discussions ongoing. Okay, but Brad Garlinghouse had admitted 6-7 years ago that they were talking with over 50 central banks. All right, so keep that in mind. So you see how, like I was saying, R3 is involved in numerous central bank digital currency projects around the world. They're also involved in numerous DLT projects, DLT infrastructure projects, and these are the ones that we know that they've been public about. Okay, so there's many other ones, obviously, because the AI is simply giving me a list of the ones that were made public. And then you see Ripple involved in numerous projects around the world. They're all sitting on advisory groups and so on and so forth. And actually, I forgot to show you one thing. Let me go back and show you something else. These are the major projects, the major DLT projects where Ripple is involved in. Okay, guys, I showed you all the CBDC projects, but I forgot to tell you the DLT projects. So RippleNet, of course. RippleNet, that's them. You've got the Bank for International Settlements, Project Mariana. You've got Fubin Bank Real Estate Tokenization pilot in Hong Kong. Fubin Bank partnered with Ripple to pilot a real estate tokenization project using the XRP ledger. Many numerous ones. Obviously, I could have asked the AI to give me many more, but here let's just look at the major advisory groups and organizations where Ripple is involved in. So they're an advisor and consultative engagement for the International Monetary Fund. But actually, if you watch one of my videos I create on IMF and Ripple connection, actually Ripple is technically the IMF disguised as a private company, and XRP is the new special drawing rights of the IMF. And what happens is, what nobody's realizing, I was literally the first one to show that actually in the XRP community. So I wish that I would have done a better job with the thumbnail and a few things with the video so people would have shared it more. But it's probably one of the most significant videos ever. I'm explaining why Ripple really exists, why they were created, and why it's the new special drawing rights of the IMF. Now, there are plenty of YouTubers who have said that they think that it's the new SDR. I'm aware of that. But I was the first one to show that it's been planned for 37 years. And I showed the issue why. Let me rewind. So the IMF created special drawing rights in 1969. And the goal of the special drawing rights was to create liquidity, global liquidity for the world, and also to help with the cross-border payments, so global trade. But what happened at the time, the IMF did not distribute their special drawing rights, their SDR, which is a basket of currency, okay? The SDR is backed by 4 or 5 of major currencies in the world. So it's a basket of currency. It represents a basket of currency. And at the time when they distributed the SDR in 1968, the way they set it up originally is they only gave it to major banks. It was like mostly central banks, I think, and some commercial banks, but they never gave it to everybody, and they didn't give it to the tech companies, they didn't give it to the corporations, they didn't give it to all of the banks. It was just for some banks. And so because it was not distributed to everybody, it did not get that global adoption. It did not get that global liquidity, and it didn't get all of those unlimited use cases that was needed in order for the SDR to get global adoption. Because in order for something to provide liquidity, in order for an asset, a currency, to provide global liquidity, for it to be really liquid, you need to have numerous use cases for it. It needs to be used for everything, and that's how it gets the liquidity. And you can interchange it with anything. Because of the way they originally structured the SDR, the special drawing rights of the IMF, it never got global adoption. And so they realized the mistakes they made, and then that's why they are creating it again, but this time they're using Ripple. IMF is disguised as a private company, Ripple, and what they're doing is that they're literally recreating the special drawing rights of the IMF, but this time what they're doing is they're putting it in the hands of everybody. So they're giving it to all tech companies to build use cases around it, all the commercial banks, central banks. They're putting in our hands as well. They're making it so that this time it will get global adoption. It will get all of those use cases built around it that helps to make it super liquid. I will post a video at the end here. Guys, you have to watch that video. It's unreal. So what I explained in that video and I show is that the magazine here, The Economist, where it talks about the rising phoenix. A lot of people talk about the rising phoenix and it says get ready for world currency. This is published in 1988. This magazine, which seems to be owned by the Rothschilds. A lot of people talk about this magazine cover, but nobody talks about the article. Okay? And this was in 1988, like I said. And when you look at the article inside, what I did is I took the article and I gave it to the AI, and I told the AI, I said, tell me what this article says, right? What the article says is that they see in 1989, it was seeing in the future that there would be a new global reserve currency that would be facilitated because of new technologies, these new digital technologies. And this new global reserve currency would be used for global trade, cross-border payments, and to help with global liquidity. And it would also help with the FX market. So this problem of going cross-currency. And so it explained exactly what Ripple is doing now. Okay, this article, again, published in 1988. It explained exactly what Ripple is doing. And it said by 2018, this new solution would take over. And it was explaining how the IMF would be the best institution to manage this new global reserve currency, because the IMF is an international organization not tied to any specific government. So the article explained how the IMF would be the best one to do this new global reserve currency. Okay, but it literally explains detailed technically what Ripple does. So this was already planned in 1988. And so it's all explained in this article, 1988, The Rising Phoenix. But what most people don't realize is that in 1988, this is the year before David Schwartz was awarded a patent for Bitcoin. If you Google search Bitcoin patent, David Schwartz, you'll find the patent that he received in 1989. So it's called the Distributed Computer System Patent, and it's technically the Bitcoin patent. And at the time, he worked for the most powerful three-letter agency in the world. So remember, the article came out a year before David Schwartz gets the patent for Bitcoin. Okay, again, it's technically the Bitcoin patent. We were told that the white paper for Bitcoin only came out in 2010, and it was this Nakamoto guy that nobody knows, blah, blah, blah. That's complete BS. So the most powerful three-letter agencies in the world had the technology way before. And like I said, you can just Google David Schwartz, Bitcoin patent. You'll find it right there. So anyway, so what happened is in 1968, okay, just to go back to what I was saying, 1968, the IMF launched the special drawing rights, the SDR, okay, and to serve as global liquidity and help with cross-border payments, so on. But it was not successful because the way they structured it originally, it didn't work, and they realized it didn't work. So then, now they plan to do it again, but they're going to take a different approach. And this is technically what it's explaining in this article. So the approach that they're taking now, with Ripple as a front, right? So again, Ripple is a private company. It's technically IMF disguised as a private company. What they're doing now is they're redoing the SDR, but this time they're going to put it in everybody's hands. Anyways, I encourage you to watch the video. I'll post a video here, but I just show all of the proof, okay? So literally, this article talked about how with relentless integrations, they'll be able to create this new digital currency, this new solution, and it was going to be with relentless integration. And what do we see Ripple doing? They're relentlessly integrating XRP into everything, right? So anyways, like I said, guys, I'll put it at the end of the video there for you to watch it if you haven't watched it. I would really encourage you to share it with everybody. think I'm actually almost taking a risk by putting that information out. But anyways, that's another story. So I just wanted to explain that because here it's saying that Ripple is an advisory and consultant to the IMF. They're way more than that. I clearly prove in the video that I'm going to show you that technically Ripple is the IMF disguised as a private company. So then they're on the Faster Payment Task Force. They're advisors to U.S. Federal Reserve. Ripple is the only blockchain company confirmed to be part of the BIS Innovation Hub's Cross-Border Payments Interoperability and Extension Task Force. So imagine, I've shown this before. Ripple is the only blockchain company that's part of the BIS, that's the central banks for all central banks, their Innovation Hub Cross-Border Payments Task Force. Ripple is the only company. Then they're part of the MasterCard CBDC Partner Program, the Digital Euro Association. They're also in the Digital Pound Foundation, other central banks engagement. And then Ripple is technically Project Enbridge, which I'll show in my next video. Ripple is definitely Enbridge, the Project Enbridge by BIS, that's Ripple. Same for Project Jura, same for Project Dora. Numerous projects on the Innovation Hub is actually Ripple, and I'm going to show that in my next videos. So guys, so this is the Internet of Value document that I talked about that had surfaced from the Hyperledger Foundation. It showed how they were going to lay out the Internet of Value. I just want to show you something real quick here, very important. It showed how, Bitcoin was the first technology that was a breakthrough technology, the whole Bitcoin story BS. And it showed how Ripple was for cross-border payments, and then the market's going to start to mature. We're going to have maturity and adoption. And then we're going to have the capital markets and trade finance. So it's saying R3 here, R3 and Hyperledger Fabric, R3 Hyperledger Fabric. So that's the Internet of Information we have today. And then they were explaining how they were going to lay out the Internet of Value with the Interledger stack. Okay. And then here it shows what the real-time gross settlement system looks in 2017 when this was published, roughly. And then now you see cross-border real-time gross settlements. Okay. And it's saying that XRP Ledger becomes the global liquidity marketplace and the global decentralized RTGS. The global decentralized RTGS system. So right here, XRP Ledger, global RTGS. You see the ILP, the Interledger Protocol, connecting all of the central banks here. All of the central banks are connected to the XRP Ledger via the Interledger Protocol. So that's why when you see the Finternet and the Unified Ledger from the BIS documents, you're always seeing the Unified Ledger being connected via the Interledger Protocol. That's why the Unified Ledger, shared ledger, is the XRP Ledger. Okay, so you could call these technically all shared ledger, which I showed before. But what I want to show you here is how this document that surfaced years ago coming from the Hyperledger Foundation, it was showing how the three major components of this new Internet of Value was the Interledger Protocol right here. And you've got Ripple for payments, which is technically cross-border settlement. And then Corda right here, R3 Corda and Hyperledger Fabric. Corda and Fabric right here, okay? I'll zoom in. So you got Ripple, you got the Interledger Protocol, and you got Corda, R3 Corda. And then it says Corda and Fabric networks right here. So those are the three main puzzles. You've got APIs on top. But this API technically now, you've got the API of Ripple, which is absolutely crucial. All of the banks can connect into Ripple using the API. But what Quant allows, Quant brings it even further. It's created Quant Overledger as an operating system, and it overlays all of the blockchains, including the XRP Ledger, and Quant allows all of the legacy systems that exist today to connect into the Unified Ledger and all of the other blockchains at the same time, which really allows the world to build multi-chain applications and all sorts of types of solutions with blockchain. But then when they want to settle transactions or build CBDCs or have liquidity, that's when the Unified Ledger, XRP Ledger, is tapped. So here we see key partnerships in this new Internet of Value, right? You've got Ripple Software Solution. You've got the Interledger Protocol, ILP. It's the open internet standard for connecting ledgers. Is a neutral and open protocol stack for bridging banks. And then you've got R3 Corda and Hyperledger Fabric. So these are the key partnerships in this Internet of Value. And it goes on to explain Ripple X Rapid, Ripple X Via, all different Ripple products that allow for this Internet of Value. And again, this was produced by NTT Data and Everest in partnership with the Hyperledger Foundation, which is a sub organization of the Linux Foundation. Okay, so this technically came from the Linux Foundation and the Hyperledger Foundation, which is now called the Decentralized Trust. So guys, I just wanted to show you another video showing you all the projects that R3 is involved in, all the projects that XRP is involved in, and show all this different stuff. Again, tying them together, right? And I forgot to mention this, but in my previous videos, in part 1 and part 2 of the Ripple and R3 partnership exposed, I showed how R3 was given 5 billion XRPs from Ripple originally, and there was a lawsuit and so on, and then it was settled. We don't know if it's 1 billion or 3 billion or 5 billion XRPs to still have, but R3 is still holding a huge amount of XRP, and they have to bring use cases and utility to the XRP ledger. They have to bring volume. The idea that R3 is not working with Ripple, or R3 doesn't have any XRP and they're not using XRP at all for settlement is complete garbage. That's BS. If you hear that, it's just because people haven't done their research. Gilbert Verdian of Quant Overledger, Gilbert Verdian said for the BIS, Regulated Liability Network, which is technically the XRP ledger, he said, we provided the programmability, the interoperability, and the custom APIs for the projects. But we also partnered with R3, who is bringing in the shared ledger where all of the tokenized assets will reside. This is the shared ledger right here. Shared ledger, unified ledger, regulated liability network, Finternet's all the same thing. It's the XRP ledger. I prove this in my other videos 100%. Okay? So guys, please share my videos with everyone. People need to know the truth about this unified ledger regulated liability network, because everybody's still confused. Where's XRP in all of this? Is it 2 of those components? Is it all 3 or 1? Or everybody's still confused. And my videos finally cleared that up for the very, very first time. There's only my videos that show that. I'm not saying that to brag by any means. I'm just an average guy that's done a lot of research. But there's only my videos that show that the unified ledger, shared ledger, regulated liability network, regulated settlement network, and the Finternet, it's all the same thing. It's the XRP ledger. And I really need your help to get that out. Okay, so for people to know that, I need the XRP community and the quant community to understand that once and for all, right? It helps to clear the confusion, because the central bankers are using these 5 different terminologies, these different names, to confuse us so that we can't figure out what it is. But again, I'm asking you, please get the word out, share it everywhere. Share it on Twitter, Telegram groups, hashtag, tag other if you don't mind. Because if you guys take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to share my stuff, it helps. That's a game changer, okay? Because you guys are the ones that can get this information out. I spent over 9,000 hours researching XRP. I spent over 4,000 or 5,000 hours researching quant in the last 8 years. Literally dedicated the last 8 years of my life to researching these major projects, and obviously other stuff in regards to crypto and just for the industrial age. Now I'm spending maybe 5, 6 to 8, 9 hours preparing these videos for you. It takes me a lot of time to put them together and to edit them and all that stuff. And so I'm just asking for your help, because really at the end of the day, my videos, I can't really reach that many people if you guys don't share it. You guys are the army. You guys are the ones that can make the big difference here and get the word out on this unified ledger, shared ledger, regulated liability network, and to show the world that it's all the same thing. For you guys that have watched my previous video, part 2, especially part 2, I would really encourage you to watch part 2. Part 2 is crucial in showing clearly that it's all the same thing. It's all the XRP ledger. But yeah, guys, if you can help me get the word out, because like I said, just you taking 5-10 minutes of your time to share it on Twitter, tagging everyone, and if you share it on Twitter, please say something like, hey guys, this is a must watch, this is the most important video I have to watch, so on. And if you do it, that'll really help. And just like hashtag XRP ledger, hashtag XRP army, you have to use the hashtags, okay? If you want to share something, it makes a huge difference if you hashtag. Some people think that hashtags don't work anymore, but that's not correct. Hashtags are really crucial, and if you don't mind, just tag other XRP YouTubers, influencers, and so on. It would really mean the world to me, guys. I really appreciate it if you could do that. Also, I want to show you what's the most important videos to watch, okay, and to share, please. So right here, Unified Ledger Part 2. So if you go on the home page here, Unified Ledger Part 2 and Part 3 are absolutely crucial to watch. If you go under my playlist here, my Unified Ledger XRP equals Unified Ledger playlist here, QNT Myth Busted. These are the most important videos to share, or the playlist. And these ones here, Insane QNT Token Secrets, because this really shows how powerful Quant Overledger is. It's just mind-blowing. So if you look here, let me just go here Okay, so this one here, part 2, part 3, and this one here, Ripple IMF, must watch. This one, my friends, is extremely powerful video to get the truth out. And then here is my whole Q&T playlist. This one here is Q&T the most important crypto. This one here would be amazing to share with everybody. You could share, boom, boom. You can copy it like this if you don't mind. If you want to share my stuff and support the truth going out. And then this one here is Q&T the most crucial technology. So these three, all of these, honestly, like the feedback I've gotten by these videos is unbelievable. So all these videos, you can share just the playlist as a whole if you want. But yeah, guys, I'm asking for your help. It'd be much appreciated. Because again, like if 10% of you just take 5 minutes per day, 10 minutes per day to share this in the Telegram group, share it on Twitter, share it on X, everywhere, it's gonna be a game changer. Like you guys are the ones that are gonna get the word out and make it way more powerful, because it takes me many hours to prepare one, but if you all take 5 minutes, it's a game changer. If 1,000 of you do that, or even 500 of you, it's a game changer. You're the ones that are the most important here. It's not me. Yeah, so guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you trusting me with your time, watching my videos, and I wish you a great day, great evening, great night wherever you are, and God bless you all. Stay safe.